am become death, the destroyer of worlds.
Hello, troopers, and welcome to a very special episode of the Real Jumpers podcast. I am your host, Turner Thompson, and joining me are a few of my fellow jumpers. Say hello, everyone.
Hello.
Yo.
Hey, yo.
Hello.
Okay, troopers, sign off from the top.
Hi, my name's Nikki, aka Akemi, and outside of this, I am a Twitch streamer, YouTube streamer, and TikTok streamer, and cosplayer.
What's up? I'm Dom. Recovering, but not actually recovering. Gotcha addict. Please help me. My God, I've spent so much goddamn money.
I heard you found a new gacha game.
Recovering. As his friend, he doesn't need help. He put himself into it. Let him suffer. Hi, this is Dennis here. See, I was going to say something. I'm not going to anymore because I completely forgot it. We're rolling with it.
Good job, dumbass.
I know.
Hi, my name is Turner Thompson. I am a visual effects artist, and I love Godzilla.
Please hire him. Someone hire him.
Please hire me, please.
I thought you liked Zilla God.
I thought you loved Zilla. Zodgilla.
I need to double check if Zilla God is an actual character, because I would not be shocked if it is somewhere in the comics.
Yeah, probably.
Wait, I thought you were a fan of Gigantus.
We forgot our favorite one. Steve, oh, go!
Hi, I'm Steven, or whatever these guys decide to call me. I'm happy to be here and talk about an actually decent Godzilla movie.
Again.
Honestly,
Again.
this is like 5 times more enjoyable than the fucking first one.
It's the first one I actually, enjoyed watching.
I'm going to be frankly honest. I still haven't finished this one. I have 15 minutes left to watch.
Talk about fucking progression. We started out with Godzilla King of the Monsters. It's just decide, I guess, to fucking, this movie is shit. And then just varying degrees of, okay. And then this one's finally just okay, I fucks with this.
For our listeners, if you haven't figured it out already, we watched the original uncut Japanese Gojira, which we'll probably be referring to as Godzilla going forward, but that is his proper name in Japan, is Gojira. This episode is dedicated to the 70th anniversary of Godzilla, the King of the Monsters. His birthday was a little while ago, so poor timing on my part, but I knew I had to get this episode out before the end of the year. In general, as we revisit the foundations of our podcast, we welcome this chance to reintroduce ourselves and start anew. Our coverage on this film will serve as a new starting point for our podcast. In honor of Godzilla -1, I find it fitting that we will be naming these episodes as probably -3 through 1. Because, this is my podcast. I can do whatever I want. And dang it, I want a better first episode.
Guys, help, he's letting the power get to his head.
No. He's finally embracing it. Keep going.
No, stop it. Keep the first one.
Don't listen to them. Don't listen to them.
Humble.
Time to rewrite history.
I'm trying to rewrite history. The truth is what I make it.
I take a bite of this apple and eat it.
And so in honor of this being basically our brand new first episode, we would like to go over, what is Real Jumpers? Real Jumpers, to me, is a project where I get to document my thoughts and feelings on films and movies, particularly sci-fi ones that have influenced my life's journey, and sharing them with my friends and hearing what they think about these films. I've been wanting to do something like share my love of Godzilla with my friends for a long time. Granted, I've told them all the time how much I love this stuff, but I've never, got the chance to really show them, and this is the perfect opportunity to do that.
We're totally not being held here against our will.
That is a rumor, a vicious rumor, and we will...
Really? Really? Because you bribed me here with a new Gundam set. Where is it? You still haven't given it to me. Where is it? I would like to build it now. And show it off. This is my Gundam.
Yes, I'll get you a new Gundam suit, don't worry.
Yes. Bribery works, people.
We're all fans of shit. It takes a special kind of idiot to talk about it in front of the internet.
He bribed you? He didn't bribe me.
He didn't bribe me either. He just promised me some chicken.
That could be considered a bribe. I mean...
Not a bribe. I was hungry and he offered me lunch. And he just said, hey, come into this Discord with me. And I said, all right.
Okay. All right, so one thing I want to point out that it is no secret that the films that we plan to watch on Real Jumpers have been discussed and analyzed and talked about endlessly on the internet. I don't expect us to come to some grand revelation that no one has ever thought of for these films. So we don't plan on being the de facto history lesson on these films. Instead, what we aim to do is to be a lighthearted comedy and recount the fantastic stories and offer our unique perspectives and insights on these films. Essentially, we're selling us. We're the product.
Now pay us for our time.
Wait, I never signed off on that.
So anyway, since this is essentially going to be our brand new first episode, I would like to shout out what inspired me to do Real Jumpers in the first place. I've never been huge on podcasts until rather recent in my life. I don't think I listened to a single podcast until like a few years outside of college, and that is when I discovered shows like Chilluminati, The Adeptus Ridiculous, and Newbie Star Trek. These shows showed me that like a lot of these people were rather humble, had great humble beginnings, and they just kind of decided, screw it, let's do a show. And I love them. Like, Chilluminati is the hugest inspiration for me. For anyone who has never heard of them or seen them, go watch them. They talk about conspiracy theories, true crime, histories, mysteries, and all sorts of other stuff. And my favorite part about it is that they promote critical thinking, which is what I think is a very important to, like, because, you know, mysteries are great, but if you buy into everything, then you're susceptible to some of the worst things in life, I guess, if that makes any sense.
Do your own research.
Exactly. Do your own research. Adeptus Ridiculous is hysterical. I love Warhammer 40k, and Newbie Star Trek was one of the biggest inspirations for the format I wanted to do, where we, you know, talk about, you know, our show, talk about like just a little bit of stuff, go into the history of certain movies that we watch, and then we literally talk about the plot. So yeah, go give them all a listen. I'll make sure that I have links to all of them in the description. As of right now, we are only on YouTube, but we do plan in the future to branch out to other places such as Amazon Music, Spotify, and anywhere else I can put my show.
Get your grubby little hands on.
Here's what we do. We grab a rock, this metaphorical rock. We put on it in the Real Jumpers, and we chuck it at everything that it will go through. Spotify will chuck it through the window. Amazon, Jeff Bezos needs another decoration.
We like tie a cassette tape to a rock and throw it through his window.
There you go. See? You're getting it. Also, you were talking about Chilluminati, Adeptus Ridiculous. They kind of inspired you to continue this, which led me down a path I never thought of until now, which to me is very disappointing. I haven't heard of any Gundam ones. Lo and behold, I find one that has 10 seasons of talking about Gundam. I found my new podcast to watch now.
Nice.
That's awesome. Send me a link to that later.
I mean, I also found a new podcast to watch, but it's drama, so don't worry about it.
Oh yeah, I'm not a big fan of drama. And lastly, I'd like to say one of the big reasons I love podcasts is that they're my favorite way to go to sleep. So if anyone wants to use our show as a sleep aid, be my guest. I don't care. It gives us great retention stats.
There's no shame in it. I sleep to Jenna Marbles, Markiplier, and Jaden Animations all the time.
I sleep to Game Grumps.
How?
I don't know. It works. There's entire sleep aid compilations of Game Grumps, okay? I'm not alone.
I mean, somebody could say the same thing about Markiplier, but when I say that, I mean his Power Wash Simulator compilations. He's got a whole playlist dedicated to it.
Yes, well, that's very relaxing. I don't know. For some reason, I like the Game Grumps. So, anyway, we're going to move forward. Here's the big question. Why Godzilla? Godzilla is very important to me, and I've definitely given this speech in our actual first episode before, but I feel like I want to talk about it again. Godzilla is, like, super important to me. Like most 10-year-olds, you have, like, 4 choices as to what, like, your personality is when you, like, start to realize that you're a person. It's either big construction vehicles, trains, dinosaurs, or, like, army. And, like, you pick one of those, like, 4 things to, like, do your entire personality behind, or I'm not entirely sure if that's accurate, but, like, I've seen memes of it, and it's really true. I chose dinosaurs. Dinosaurs captured my imagination as a kid more than anything, and I refuse to watch a movie if there wasn't a dinosaur in it.
I wish I had that. All I had was Kumon.
So
I just realized what he said.
are you talking about that educational system?
Yes.
Or like,
Yes.
It's a tutoring program that when people go in, they're like,
hellhole.
yeah, and then about like 2 years later, the kids are just suffering.
It's suffering from the beginning.
I find it funny because their logo looks like a child who is clueless.
Child that's clueless about what they have in store for them at that facility.
Can I derail and just say something funny that I noticed a while ago? You know how there are those trampoline parks?
Oh, I love those.
And so there's a trampoline park here in where we live that's got like cool things, and it's got like virtual reality, it's got laser tag and everything in it. You want to know what's next door?
What?
A math tutoring program.
The opposite of fun.
Can you imagine that? Like you're going out with your mom and your brother, and your mom's like, okay, honey, we're going to go have fun here. Oh, no, sorry. You got an F on your last math test. You're going over there instead.
Or just taking a kid to the tutors and being like, this really fun thing is like
You're right next door. And you're like, oh, no, honey, you're going to tutoring. And then you look longingly at the kids having fun.
I was saying, it's like when you say you're taking your dog to the park and they get all excited and you take them to the vet instead. And they're just like, how could you do this to me?
Why?
So, getting back to my story.
Sorry.
It's okay. Godzilla, to me, matters a lot because I loved dinosaurs. And basically, what is Godzilla if not a better T-Rex? And then, like, I absorbed a lot of, like, these Godzilla films. The first movie I ever saw was Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah from the Heisei era. Blew my mind as a child. And, like, as I got older, I'd say, like, about 5 years after I discovered Godzilla was around the time that I had the epiphany that, A, one, Santa Claus isn't real, and B, Godzilla's a dude in a suit.
Wait, Santa Claus isn't real?
What?
Oh, shit.
Godzilla's a man in a suit?
So, when I discovered that Godzilla was a guy in a suit, I think what happens with most kids when they discover something like that is that it kind of ruins the magic. For me, it only made it better. I wanted to know how they did it. And that, like, revelation, and I've based my college essay on this.
Truly dedicated.
Nerd.
Yeah. Realizing he was a guy in a suit made me realize, wait, so they had to make that, like, art? But how did they make that? Like, does that mean, like, oh, my, that building's actually tiny, and someone built it and literally blew it up? How did they do the atomic breath? And this led me down a path where, like, granted, where I decided to go changed a lot, but, like, in middle school, and I know this is very rare for most people because most people don't know what they want to do with their life, and that's very common. Anyone who's listening, don't feel bad that you don't know what to do with your life. That's very normal.
Feel bad? When you were in 7th grade, you should have been purchasing property.
I was memorizing my 8's timetables, but in reality, I should have owned a home at that
Should have
point.
just invested in Tesla.
You fucked up.
And now look at us.
No, while you guys were memorizing your timetables, I was studying the ways of the blade.
That still didn't work out.
You should have been studying the ways of Wall Street.
Oh, I actually kind of lost my pace. Where was I? Oh, yeah. So in middle school, like, I kind of realized I wanted to be in entertainment. I wanted to learn how they did this stuff. So I studied how to make video games. Turns out I hate coding.
Yeah,
that was a no-go. I wanted to be an animator. Turns out I don't know how to foreshorten a hand. So that immediately ruined it for me. So I decided I wanted to go into visual effects, and then I studied a system called compositing, which is, like the marrying of multiple elements to become a singular whole. Basically, my job is, if you don't notice anything, I did my job right.
We made the jokes, honestly, because you worked on the Barbie movie, right? And I would come in and I go, oh, you're working? And you'd be like, yeah. And I go, just make that pink more pink. And you went, actually, that's exactly what I'm doing.
That is exactly what I was doing in some shots. I think the pink pinker. I had to resaturate some of it.
So that's what he does. I like to think of it as fine-tuning animation, not editing.
I think of it like Photoshop in motion is what I do.
Still cool.
Yeah, it's very, I love...
He's a reality weaver.
Yeah. Again, if you didn't notice anything, I did my job right. And I have Godzilla to thank for that, because Godzilla, like, no matter how silly it gets, no matter how cheap it looks, no matter how amazing it can be, Godzilla has always been like my comfort food. It's always made me happy, and I want to share my thoughts about it. And I'm glad that I get to do this movie and show something that means a lot to me and to my friends.
Bitch.
I mean, I the thing is, what helps is that all of us have our own way of going about it. What I mean by that is each of us have that fandom. Take in, for example, for example, it is no secret I love Gundam. Growing up, I wasn't really too into it, but it always found its way back to me.
Oh.
Like, genuinely. Like, full on, one of the Gundam series, I had the PlayStation 2 game for a while, played it, it got stuck on it, dropped the entire series. Then later, it pops back up as oh yeah, remember this game? Oh yeah, I have my PlayStation 2 somewhere, hooked it back up, played it, got stuck again, didn't play again for like another 5 years. Then it's something that always stuck back until I'm like, you know what? Let me properly sit down and watch it. And the floodgates were open and I was sent into space. Like, so I understand genuinely how you feel, Turner, because in some part, I've gone through it and I've honestly been enjoying every moment of it.
It's because you're me! Like you're the villain at the end of a movie.
It also doesn't help that the new Gundam series coming out is literally being wrote by Hideko Anno, which is the writer and creator of fucking Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Oh, he did Shin Godzilla!
Yeah, he's coming back to write the newest Gundam series. I cannot wait.
That means it's gonna be a little weird, but also like in a way that you've never seen before.
Oh no, I'm already questioning it because I saw I don't even know where this place is in the different timelines, or if it's part of the main timeline called the Universal Center. We'll talk about that later. No, we need to talk about it later. I'm already stopping myself now. I can feel the pull.
All right, so look, for our listeners, we will probably talk about Gundam at some point, and I do plan to have, like, if any of my friends want to helm their own episodes, I fully welcome it. I'd love to hear about what they are obsessed about, and they can tell me, like, how I'm going to tell them about what I love. So our early plan for our show is that we plan, at least for our initial like group of episodes, we're going to go through the entire Showa era of Godzilla. Odds are we might take a break after Destroy All Monsters because that's about the halfway point of the series. But like, if not, we'll probably just do the whole Showa era. We'll do an episode where we recap the entire thing. We'll probably literally do a tier list video where it's like, S tier and stuff like that. I'm also going to do a video, or excuse me, a podcast episode where I talk about my ongoing Hollow Earth Showa era theory that I don't think I've seen anyone talk about before. And maybe I could like blow some minds with it, but it's interesting. There's a lot of stuff that all these movies we've been watching, especially oh god, I just burped.
It sounded like you puked too, honestly.
It kind of did.
One of those things that nobody noticed until you brought attention to it.
Anyway, so we're gonna be like, ever since we started watching Mothra, I'm like, okay, this is starting to add some interesting bits of lore here. I think I've got an interesting timeline. Oh, look, when we get to Godzilla versus King Ghidorah in the Heisei era and they use time travel, things gonna get wild.
Oh god.
Oh no, time travel gives me a headache.
At least you're not jumping between different time periods that are happening at the same time, simultaneously, and both before and after. I recommend I recommend every one of our viewers to play Kingdom Hearts, the series.
No.
All of it. Have fun.
Please don't break their brains.
So
You poor babies. Don't listen to him.
it's not that complicated. Okay. So after that, we're going to take, the break from Godzilla. We'll probably do like Pacific Rim, maybe like Lord of the Rings or something.
I have a whole fucking plan for Transformers, bitch.
Oh yeah, I'd love to do that. So we'll take a break after the end of Showa era. And then we're going to pick it right back up with the Heisei era. Man, that's the one everyone loves. Yeah, that's our plan. For my research for this movie, I'd like to shout out Wikizilla, Wikipedia, IMDb, and the YouTubers Big Action Bill, Paper Fins, and the Unapologetic Geek. All of them had videos that greatly informed me on the goings-on of like the time period, what was going on behind the scenes, and how this movie just came about. I honestly, they're an invaluable resource, and I want to make a big shout out to them. Links to their YouTube channels will be in our description. Like always, we would like to make the disclaimer that the point of our podcast is to be a comedy and to entertain. So if we happen to get anything wrong or mispronounce any names, we are sorry, and we encourage you to do your own research if these films interest you. Please comment below what we might have gotten wrong or any other fun facts about the film. And remember to drop us a like and subscribe if you enjoy the show. It really helps us out, and it would mean the world to us if you supported the real jumpers.
The second disclaimer, one of those links down below has a 1 in 1,000 chance of summoning the Chosen directly to your location.
Beware.
If I ever could mod XCOM 2, I would, or I could pay someone to do it. I want it so that there's a 1 in 1,000 chance that one of those drop pods drops all 3 Chosen into the same field.
Well, someone probably done it. It's somewhere. It's not that hard to find, I think.
Because wouldn't that be the biggest shit your pants moment?
Oh god, I'm screwed. The biggest fuck you moment ever. You've already lost 2 guys. You're barely getting to the objective. Hello, Commander. Fuck.
I thought we'd roll up.
Especially the fact where you don't have plasma weaponry or mag weaponry. You have regular bullets.
I don't think they'd have it active that early.
Yeah, I don't know. There's some mods out there that make it even harder than before.
Yeah.
They advertise themselves as such, though. Most tend to try and be fair.
Yeah. I like those mods that are like, look, it's hard, but I wanted it to be fair. Because those tend to be like the better ones, because that takes actual game design. Anyway, so I don't think there's much else to say for our intro, which is going to be really long. I apologize. Odds are I'll put a time code so that people can just skip right ahead to the part where we talk about the background and synopsis. If there's nothing else to say, now then, ladies and gentlemen, gear up. We're jumping feet first into the heart of sci-fi. This is Real Jumpers. Now let's drop. So let's get into some background. I found it hard to figure out where I wanted to start with this. I said back in our first real episode that there was a lot of context to Godzilla, but I didn't want to go over them until we went and talked about the real original Godzilla. So I've been scratching my head to figure out where to start. And I guess the best way to start is that, like, the concept of giant monsters has been with mankind since the very beginning. Ever since mankind could conceive of a larger version of something, they've always been fascinated with monsters. Monsters like Jormungandr, Typhon, Tiamat, Leviathan, Behemoth, Kukulkan, Yamata no Orochi, and even the classic European dragon are some of the most common examples I can think of. Monsters have always been a part of our zeitgeist, and so it's hard to really pinpoint the true beginning of the concept of a kaiju, but I'll do my best. I believe, like, in terms of cinema, one of the most important films that could arguably be considered the first giant monster film is The Lost World from 1925. So our story on the road to the King of the Monsters begins in the Roaring '20s, where a silent film emerged, captivating audiences with its groundbreaking special effects done by the legendary stop-motion animator Willis O'Brien. The Lost World, a cinematic adaptation of Arthur Conan Doyle's novel, transported viewers to a prehistoric land teeming with dinosaurs. This film is a marvel of its time, utilized stop-motion animation to bring these giant creatures to life.
Welcome to Jurassic Park.
Kind of is.
Da-da-da.
While this film may seem like a distant connection to Godzilla, The Lost World laid the foundations for a genre that would later spawn The King of the Monsters. It introduced audiences to the idea of giant creatures from a bygone era, and a concept that we would further explore and expand upon in the years to come. I guess, like, the first monster rampaging in a city sequence happens in the Lost World, where I think it's either an apatosaur or a brontosaurus is, like, roaming around in London and just effing stuff up. Also, the apatosaurus in that movie, like, likes to bite people like it's a carnivore. It looks janky today, but it was groundbreaking at the time. Fast forward to 1933, just 8 years later, we have one of the most important films ever made, King Kong. It was about a colossal ape that would take the world by storm. King Kong pushed the boundaries of special effects, showcasing a massive creature wreaking havoc in a bustling metropolis of New York City, once again through the use of stop motion done by Willis O'Brien. The film's success solidified the public's fascination with giant monsters, proving that audiences were eager to witness larger-than-life creatures on the silver screen. King Kong's impact on popular culture was undeniable, and it paved the way for future monster movies. Though he himself may not be a true kaiju film yet, we are getting closer and closer to the birth of this new genre. Sadly, the world stage shifted dramatically in the 1940s. World War II engulfed the globe, leaving a trail of destruction and despair. The Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941 thrust the United States into the conflict, and the subsequent years of war were marked by intense battles and technological advancements. The war's end, hastened by the devastating atomic bombings of both Hiroshima and Nagasaki, ushered in a new era of fear and uncertainty. President Harry S. Truman's decision to use these powerful weapons created by the brilliant mind of Robert Oppenheimer forever altered the course of human history. In the aftermath of the war, Japan, a nation scarred by the conflict, sought to rebuild and recover. The horrors of the atomic bombings, however, left a deep psychological impact on the Japanese people. A collective desire to suppress the traumatic memories of the war emerged, leading to a period of silence and denial. This saw the resurgence of Japanese cinema to help the nation move on. Though it was initially heavily edited and censored by the American occupation until 1952, this would be known as Japanese cinema's post-war renaissance.
It's like America doesn't want to admit that they did something wrong.
As the world grappled with the implications of nuclear power, a new monster emerged from the depths of the ocean and kicked off the age of the atomic monster in the 50s. The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms in 1953 is an American monster movie, and it tapped into the public spheres about radiation and nuclear testing. This film depicted a prehistoric creature awakened by atomic tests and is a chilling allegory for the destructive power of nuclear weapons. This film's titular monster, known as the Rhinosaurus, was brought to life by Willis O'Brien's protege, Ray Harryhausen. However, this film's perspective on the new atomic age was firmly an American one, and almost pales into comparison to the trauma of those who witnessed the fire of the atomic age being lit firsthand.
You know, when you go into watching this movie, right, when you realize, or when someone tells you, all right, and just want to give food for thought for the viewers if they go and watch this later, go in and watch this with a bit of reverence because of what it is a metaphor for.
Exactly. And the crazy thing is that this movie was scary. I wouldn't classify it as a horror film because I don't think it ever was meant to be that scary, but like, this was a frightening film at the time. And yes, the effects of this film are dated, but at some point, this was frightening.
I probably wouldn't say horror. I'd probably say more at the time it was probably akin to more like a thriller.
Mm-hmm.
Those are good examples of nowadays. I don't know, like RoboCop or something, like action. Now that's action pack, isn't it?
I think Cloverfield is a better example because that movie is found footage, and I love found footage, by the way. But Cloverfield, it kind of captures how scary it would be to be in that situation where a giant monster attacks your city. So that movie kind of captures close to the feeling, but it's almost impossible to put into words like how this movie was meant to be felt, and it's meant to be scary. Anywho, so after the Beast from 20,000 Fathoms was created, Japanese cinemas had it showed over in Japan. People loved it, and this is a period in time where Japan is they've already re-signed their peace accords with America. They're slowly rebuilding their relationship with the nation that pretty much conquered them. And for the most part, the Japanese people wanted to forget what happened. It's like a big sense of denial and just trying to just move on. That is until in March 1954, a real-life tragedy would occur. The Lucky Dragon No. 5, a Japanese fishing boat, was exposed to radioactive fallout from an American nuclear test in the Pacific. The Castle Bravo test, one where the new hydrogen bomb was tested, was far more powerful than anticipated, over 2.5 times stronger than predicted, and its radioactive fallout would spread far outside what was deemed the safe zone. This was how the unfortunate crew of the Lucky Dragon were exposed, and one crew member died due to radiation sickness. Once again, even after the nation wished to move on and forget the horrors of war, the Japanese people were harmed by an American nuclear bomb. The incident sparked outrage. As far as I am aware, Japan is the only nation that has ever had an atomic bomb used against them, and you'd be understandably pissed if it happened a third fucking time.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
So, against this backdrop of war, nuclear anxiety, and societal trauma, a Japanese studio known as Toho was out to make two of the most expensive films in their nation's history: Seven Samurai and, of course, Godzilla. Before we go any further, there are four men that we need to discuss that are pivotal to the creation of the King of the Monsters. The first man we're going to discuss is Ishiro Honda, who was chosen to direct Godzilla 1954 due to a combination of factors. Honda had already proven himself as a skilled filmmaker with experience in various genres and a keen vision for storytelling. He also had a key understanding of the project's themes, as he was deeply affected by the horrors of World War II, particularly horrified by the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And I forgot to add this, but he was drafted and he fought on the front lines. He was in the Pacific theater of World War II. He understood the power of cinema to convey social and political messages and saw Godzilla as a powerful metaphor for the destructive power of nuclear weapons. Honda was also no stranger to working with special effects. He was able to effectively integrate them into his films, and he worked closely with the legendary special effects artist Eiji Tsuburaya, who is my personal hero, to bring Godzilla to life. Ultimately, Honda's combination of talent, vision, and understanding of the project's themes made him the ideal choice to direct Godzilla 1954. And I also want to make a correction. I claimed in our Mothra episode that's going to be coming out sometime soon that...
Or already out by this time.
Or possibly, yeah. That Ishiro Honda was Catholic. I was wrong. It's Eiji Tsuburaya. He's the Catholic.
Still makes no lick difference of the conclusion of the cacophony of different religions in that film.
Yeah. Next, and my personal favorite, because I'm biased because I love visual effects, is the man Eiji Tsuburaya. Eiji Tsuburaya is the visionary behind Godzilla's special effects and was a true pioneer in the field. His passion for cinema was ignited by the iconic King Kong, inspiring him to delve into the intricacies of special effects. He spent countless hours analyzing the film, dissecting the techniques to use to bring the giant ape to life. This meticulous study laid the foundation for his groundbreaking work.
Ground baking.
Easy bake oven.
Easy bake oven.
That's what all this has been leading up to, the invention of the easy bake oven. Good night, everybody.
Yeah, so I love the stories of hearing he had a personal copy of King Kong, and he would literally watch it over and over and figure out how he did it by himself. That's impressive. I love that level of commitment. Subaraya's career began in the 1930s at the PCL Film Company, which is the company that ultimately kind of becomes Toho, in a weird way, but I don't want to get into that history, where he honed his skills in special effects. During World War II, he worked on propaganda films for the Japanese government, namely a film called Hawaii Mar Oki Kaizen, I think I said that right, which is a film about the attack on Pearl Harbor. It was so convincing that at the time, it fooled American intelligence into thinking it was actual war footage.
Oh my god.
Impressive.
Imagine being so good at your job that the government thinks that it's fucking real.
Yeah, so you can see why someone like him would be perfect for a movie like Godzilla.
But it's especially like what Dom says, especially when we can make such convincing footage that it genuinely confuses
The U.S. government.
the U.S. government and military intelligence. Like those people are fucking smart, like very smart, enough to fool them. It's like, okay, you're doing something right there. You deserve a raise, good sir.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think that's a mark of pride. Like, later on in life, when someone asks, what's your biggest accomplishment in life? I made footage so realistic that it fooled the U.S. government. Holy shit.
It did have the benefit that black and white footage at the time looked like crap, so, like, it definitely...
Yeah, it was part of it.
Again, that's still... I don't want to shit on that feat. That's an impressive feat. However, after the war, he had many issues trying to be a freelancer because he was blacklisted for his work on propaganda films due to the American occupation at the time. So he got screwed hard. This is also a fate that many men faced in the film industry because pretty much the entire film industry in Japan was hijacked by, the government to become a propaganda machine. So it's not really their fault. I don't know. It's an interesting situation. So, however, when American occupation ended and Toho Studios embarked on the creation of Godzilla, Eiji Tsuburaya was the natural choice to lead the special effects team. His innovative techniques and unwavering dedication brought Godzilla to life, creating one of the most enduring monsters in cinematic history. And one of the things I want to point out is that, like, even though he was very intelligent, so much of what he did on set was literally just trial and error.
It's kind of how it was in the early days of film anyways.
Yeah.
Either you delivered a good product, or now you're selling fruit by the local curb.
I mean, yes, but what I really meant was, nowadays we have high-tech cameras, CGI, 3D, all that fun stuff. Back then, it was either, if you wanted to do something cool, you either figure it the fuck out, or you don't get to do it.
Yeah.
And in the process, if you risk the lives of multiple people on the film set, that's just how it goes.
Literally.
That's so true.
No, actually, all right, slightly off topic. I was watching a video the other day about Japanese Spider-Man, and even though it's a colossal meme,
Oh my god.
they actually got the actor, I don't know his name, but to like swing down from like a bridge in Japan, obviously, and he swung on like a rope through like a bunch of trees, and he got fucked up, but they still used the shot like in Japanese Spider-Man.
Wow. That seems to make me Aragorn breaking his toe, or whoever the actor was breaking his toe when he kicks the orc's head. Fact seem kind of small.
Oh yeah.
Oh no! You want to know something interesting? Let's fast forward to Mission Impossible. Tom Cruise literally did his own stunts. Like, there's one part in one of the Mission Impossible movies where he jumps from one skyscraper to another that's somewhat close by, and you see his foot land in an angle to where it breaks.
Yeah, he broke his whole ass leg.
Like, he broke it in that instance and continued the shot because it was more realistic. Like, he did. I think he still does.
He does mostly, yeah.
He tries to do it.
Not,
Yeah.
at least now a good 90% is still his own stunts. Like, that is just, to me, that's both, holy shit, that's like really inspiring. Like, okay, damn, that is dedication. At the exact same opposite time, holy mother of God, I would never want to do that, especially breaking my leg for work. Is this hazard pay?
No. It's called having insurance.
This is adventure.
I put forth on the table the following film, Wizard of Oz.
Oh, I've heard some horror stories about working on that, but we need to move
I
forward.
could do a whole different episode purely on that.
The third man on our list is Akira Ifukube. He was a renowned Japanese composer best known for his work on the Godzilla franchise, particularly the iconic 1954 film. He was born in 1914. Ifukube began his career in the 1940s, composing music for various films and theater productions. He was known for his experimental and innovative approach to music, often blending traditional Japanese elements with Western classical talents. Leading up to his work on Godzilla, Ifukube had already established himself as a respected composer in Japan. His earlier works include scores for films such as Snow Trail and Tale of Genji. Sorry, every time I hear the name Genji, I think of Overwatch.
Does he need healing?
I need healing. Is that
Bro's been inflicted with brain rot.
His unique style and ability to create memorable melodies made him a sought-after composer in the Japanese film industry. He is also responsible for making Godzilla's roar.
Really?
Yep. And there's actually one man I forgot to mention. I totally skipped him. He's Tomoyaki Tanaka. He is the visionary producer behind Godzilla and is a pivotal figure in the creation of this iconic monster. While flying back to Japan from Indonesia when he was hot off the cancellation of the next big film that Toho wanted to do, he wondered what would fill the gap in their production schedule. While looking out the window and seeing the ocean, he had an idea. Tanaka was inspired by the 1953 American film The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms and the real-world event of the Lucky Dragon No. 5 incident. He saw an opportunity to create a powerful and thought-provoking film that would resonate with audiences. Tanaka's passion for the project and his ability to secure funding and assemble a talented team were crucial to Godzilla's success. He understood the potential of the concept and worked tirelessly to bring it to life. His foresight and determination helped shape the future of the Godzilla franchise and cemented his legacy as one of the most influential figures in Japanese cinema. And pretty much every story I've ever heard about, like, the creation of a Godzilla film was like, Tomoyaki Tanaka had an idea.
And that seems like the big consensus of where Tanaka had an idea. Everyone was effectively, fuck it, sure, why not?
Exactly. When these four men got together, as well as the countless other people who were involved, Godzilla was planned to be a serious film. They didn't want to make it a lighthearted, fantastical film like its contemporaries, King Kong. The movie would become an unapologetic metaphor for the nuclear weapons. Upon completion, Gojira was first released in Nagoya, I think is how you say that. Nagoya in Japan on October 27th, 1954, and then was released nationwide in Japan on November 3rd, 1954. And it sold over 9.69 million tickets in its national run, outpacing even its, I guess you can almost call it its sister film, Seven Samurai, which was made alongside it.
That's impressive.
This began the dawn of the golden age of kaiju and tokusatsu. So yes, I'd like what Steve said, like Seven Samurai is a very important film in terms like you've probably seen like a million things that's like, this is our episode of the show inspired by Seven Samurai. Seven Samurai and Godzilla are like the two most important films that Toho ever made, and they have murals depicting them at their studio.
One something else I realized when you were going on about when Gojira was first released. You said it was released in Nagoya, Japan, on October 27th. Now, it's not exactly, because I'm using roughly, I'm using our current time, and it was put out on November 3rd. It's literally a week. They said, oh my god, the movie's doing numbers. Release it nationally now. It's only been a week. Exactly.
Well, I think what happened is that the October 27th release was the small release where they were trying to gauge if people liked it. So yeah, no, exactly what you said. Never mind.
Yeah, they realized, oh my god, it's doing numbers.
This is doing numbers.
Send it out now.
The only ever film in Japan to ever outsell the original was King Kong versus Godzilla.
Makes sense.
Wonder why.
I can't wait for that.
Yeah. By the way, sorry, listeners. We skipped King Kong because I realized if I was ever going to get this episode out in this year, we had to skip it. We'll get back to it, I promise.
Thank you for our regularly scheduled interruption.
I'm going to practice my storytelling abilities so I can become an audiobook guy. So now we will begin with our synopsis of the film.
Took us an hour.
Yeah. Well, I had important stuff I wanted to talk about.
Fuck your important stuff. There's Godzilla to talk about.
No, fuck you.
Before we start, do you have a moment to talk about our Lord and Savior Godzilla?
I'll kill you.
Should we go and put any and all Godzilla books in the Bible section at the bookstore?
Listeners, do it now. I command you. Please do it. It would be hilarious.
Some serious heresy right there.
I need the heavy flamer for this heresy.
I mean, we've learned that Mothra is actually a god, so, it does make sense. Just stating. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's okay. All right. We begin our film to an eerie silence, coupled only with that familiar scratchy sound of old black and white footage. The logo of Toho appears silently before booming footsteps can be heard. One after another. Before the title drops over a black background. The kanji for Gojira. The credits roll, and we hear Akira Ifukube's iconic score for what will become one of Godzilla's main theme songs, which was originally meant for the military's theme, but it just kind of stuck with him. This continues with more roars and thunderous footsteps before it all fades out, and we see an ocean take form, and we see the wake of a ship leaving a trail in the ocean. The music shifts to something more lighthearted as we see the crew of some fishing vessel enjoying a relaxing time on the deck. That is until a bright light is seen off the bow. The crew rushes to see the bright light emanating from the ocean before it flashes, and the crew recoils in pain. As a side note, the effect that done in this scene is known as a double exposure. Double exposure photography is a technique that layers two different exposures on a single image, combining two photographs essentially into one. Double exposure creates a surreal feeling in your photos that the two photographs can work together to convey a deep meaning or symbolism. A similar technique known as Multiple exposure is when you combine more than 2 exposures in a single image. This is also the classic way to do ghosts in old school black and white and other. You can even do it in color footage.
We've talked about double exposure a lot. Between Gojira, The Horrible Existence, that's the second movie.
Raids again.
I refuse to speak its name, or else we summon it.
Don't you mean Gigantus the fire monster?
Oh, God. Gigantus, yeah, Gigantus pain in my ass. No, but it's a thing of where they use a lot of double exposure between since this movie effectively popularized it, and they're like, "Ooh, this effectively worked really fucking well, like too damn well. Let's use it for everything. Use it for everything. Go."
I wouldn't say this film popularized the use because King Kong uses it. It's just because I'm a visual effects guy, I want to talk about the effects I see, and like that's what's happening here.
But given, if you were to put the 2 images for double exposure, you can kind of tell. Okay, they were a bit unsure because it's so new. Here, it's like we're going to use it in every sort of way it wasn't intended to use it, and run and make it work.
Yeah, in order to do a lot of the matte shots they do later, they also use double exposure, but they use clever masking to not show the 2 images overlapping, and I'll point that out at another point. So anyway, as the bright light emanates from the ocean, dreadful music plays as a bright mist engulfs the ship and bursts it into flames. The telegraph operators desperately attempting to signal an SOS before their cabin is flooded and the ship sinks into the Pacific waters. Which is really funny. It's still just like the old one, where they just immediately fold as soon as water touches them.
The guy threw himself towards the water.
He was excited, okay?
Godzilla used splash. It was super effective.
Basically.
Wait, since when is splash ever super effective? That was not splash. It was hot water. That was brine.
Oh!
No.
Do you think the water was boiling?
Maybe.
Well, I mean, there was a bright light. It's probably really hot.
Damn. That recontextualizes the whole scene for me.
I mean, like, it was an explosion, right?
Kind of, yeah.
Explosions usually happen with the combustion of heat, right?
Yeah.
That would have to do something to the water.
Oh, damn.
But also the fact that's also Godzilla at the time released this energy outward, something that I think Turner later on he can do in certain series and games. He can kind of expel energy out.
Yeah, in the Heisei era, he gains an ability called the Atomic Burst, I think, where he shoots out like a concussive shockwave of energy just around him that I think he gets it in Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, or no, it's Biollante, but that's for later. It's super dubious as to whether or not Godzilla is actually a nuclear reactor or not. It really depends on what movie we're talking about.
Because in here it seems like, oh, this is just that. If you were to tell me that was him shooting his atomic breath, because that's like the first thing he sees is something that massive, I'd believe it.
I think it is heavily implied that it is his atomic breath, because they reference it in -1 that the same thing happens to that big battleship where he shoots his atomic breath up through the water and the water glows before it eviscerates them.
But the thing I was going to say, for that guy that was jumped towards the water, he was to me, what I thought was, you know that meme of where, touch your grass? No, I'm going to touch the sea, the water. I want to go in the water.
So just real quick, I looked it up. All right. And I'm going to be preface this with what I always say. This is according to Google AI, and I never trust it 100%. Okay. When an explosion occurs on water, the immediate impact is not necessarily boiling, but the extreme heat and shockwave generated by the explosion can rapidly vaporize a significant amount of water near the blast site, essentially creating a steam explosion where the water rapidly turns to steam, appearing like boiling on a massive scale. However, the water further away from the explosion's direction's impact might not reach boiling point.
Okay.
This guy's being burned alive.
It's still brine.
So yeah, the people were typing out desperately to get sent out an SOS, but they don't seem to get a full message. And soon we see that their signal is received on the mainland, their final moments etched in eerie Morse. Damn it, I had such a great line there and I fucked up.
Like, they're trying to send out the SOS signal and they just don't have time to. That's like that's like really quick, because if you really think about it, that's 3 long dots, 3 short dots, and 3 long dots.
Yeah, it's...
The fact that they could not send that out is that, wow.
It's terrifying. So, their signal is received on the mainland, their final moments etched in eerie Morse code, leaving the communications room in utter confusion and disbelief. We then cut to what appears to be an apartment, and we see a handsome man answering a ringing phone. This man is known as Ogata, and he is our main male protagonist for the story. And quickly we see our main female lead, Emiko, ask him what the call is about. Ogata explains that the Coast Guard has received a distress call and he needs to cancel their date night. As he leaves, dressed in his naval uniform, we cut to a broadcast coming from the Southern Sea Steamship Company explaining that the ship Echo Maro has been reported lost due to unknown reasons. Oh, and if we didn't mention this, the ship sinking at the very beginning of the movie is a huge reference to the Lucky Dragon number 5 incident.
It's honestly amazing. I'm going to go ahead and point this out. It's amazing the media that gets put out after catastrophe and, devastation and metaphor. Because because we have this, all right, and then you Grave of the Fireflies, which we were watching, right? And then if we jump forward to say 9/11, how many artists put out songs in rebuttal to that event?
It's funny, I can add to that. The movie Cloverfield, which is another kaiju film, is heavily influenced by the events of 9/11. And there's another Godzilla movie, Shin Godzilla, which is heavily influenced by, I forget exactly the name, I don't have it in front of me, but there was a recent earthquake that led to a tsunami that led to a near nuclear meltdown in Japan. And Shin Godzilla is a huge metaphor for that. With the ship reported missing, we see an office filled with men poring over charts and figures trying to piece together what happened. The owner of the company, along with Ogata, enters the room asking what happened, but no one has any answers. Only a potential explosion and then all communications halting. Another man adds that soon they should learn what happened as the ship, the Bingo Maro, is being sent to investigate. We then fade to see a ship arriving in the area and then rather comically catches fire immediately after seeing the same bright light. I remember back in our first episode, I said, I bet you anything the timing and presentation of this scene is a lot more serious in the original. Nah, they just show up and catch a fire.
Almost like a Saturday Night Live sketch.
I think I made a joke in the first one that someone just lit a match at an unfortunate time.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I'd stand by that. I stand by that to this day of what you said.
Somebody lit a match?
Yeah, because honestly, both in Godzilla King of the Monsters and here, there is a tone difference. That's like one of the first things you see. But it's still such a... And they catch on fire.
Yeah,
why they catch on fire? The light showed.
Or about it.
Boom! Out of nowhere.
There was no sense of dread or anything. It just like, oh no!
It was the what was it? The Rick and Morty. There's no sound. He died. Yeah, it's called a deterrent.
So unfortunately, after that bit of comedy, back on the mainland, news is spreading of the two ships sinking, and many family members are swarming the offices of the shipping company demanding answers, and the best they can say is that more ships and helicopters are searching the area, and some of the civilians are demanding why more isn't being done. And I think there was like a guy he mentioned that this is the best we can do, but I promise we're going to send more people. Like, we will figure out what happened. And like, again, the major like concern that most of these people are like, where are my loved ones?
Honestly, like, what more can you do in that situation? You already sent out a second boat. Sending out more might just get them destroyed. I get people being worried about their loved ones, but there's not many options.
And the thing is that this kind of marks like an eerie resemblance to some form of like reality. Like, again, this movie isn't like, you can piece it, if you sit down and dissect it logically, a lot of what happens and it doesn't make any sense. But like, this movie tried its best to like present a realistic scenario. And I really appreciate that. And like the chaos of boats sinking, like to the average person, you don't give an F about the logistics. You want to know where your husband is.
Except from Stacy down the street. She was cheating on her husband. It's just a relief for her.
Shut up. This is a serious movie.
I'm sorry. There is so much film nowadays. Oh, you know what? I'll explain that later outside the podcast.
All right.
Godzilla, everyone.
Back to Godzilla. Before long, a ship in the area finds 3 survivors clinging to life on a ship fragment. These men proclaim that all that they saw was that the sea suddenly exploding before they are seen more than just exhausted. They seem to be dying. Something is wrong with them.
Oh, no shit.
News arrives of the survivors, and still the public are scrambling for answers. But before they could arrive safely home, dreadful news arrives that the ship that found them has met the same fate as the other boats. Which is something that, like, the original movie never really made that, like, connection to me. I just saw people survive, and then they never mentioned them again. But we
were just like, what?
Yeah, but in the original movie, it turns out the boat that found them never made it back.
Dun, dun, dun.
That's effed up. It's terrifying. What the hell is happening out there?
It's called a giant T-Rex.
We don't know that yet.
Sorry. Because I realized I just insulted Godzilla by calling him a T-Rex.
Well, that's what he's inspired by.
It's okay. He's not real. He doesn't have feelings.
Godzilla brings out the funnies in everyone. It's supposed to bring out the fear and terror and the 1,000-yard stare in everyone. No, it brings in the comedy in ways you don't really get.
I give
oh my
you
God.
the derpy googly eye puppet from this movie.
I cannot get over that.
Just as stupid as the first time.
I want a teddy bear of it.
It's cute.
There's the best frame in the entire film where he looks straight down. It's so fun. Anyway, this is a serious movie. Soon we even see that one of our radio operators at the company is contacting a Mr. Yamada about the ship sinking it all in the same area near the Odo Island. The public has had enough, and they managed to push into the office of where all the news is coming from. They state that they are tired of hearing the same thing over and over and demand to know what happened.
They pushed into the office like Black Friday in 2005.
Oh my God. It is kind of like that. Tensions are rising now as the tragedy continues to grow with no explanations to be found. We begin to see news articles proclaiming theories of sea mines and underwater volcanoes as the nation is growing more frightened by the news of ship after ship disappearing off the coast of Japan. We then cut to the beaches of what we will soon know to be Odo Island. We then see a young man named Shinkichi, and one of his elders is talking about the ships that the island natives have witnessed sinking off of their shores, wondering if they were caused by perhaps a volcano, because, I mean, that's the best explanation I could think of. A bright light and they explode.
Makes sense.
Maybe a volcano.
Underwater volcanoes do exist.
Yeah, that's what Hawaii is before it became an island. Before long, while they are staring out at sea, Shinkichi sees something approaching the shore. It turns out to be a piece of wreckage with one lone survivor on it, and it just so happens to be Shinkichi's older brother Masagi.
Coincidence?
This is a huge coincidence, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Is it really?
This is one of the This is probably the biggest contrivance in the whole film, but it does have some good symbolism behind it, so I will allow it.
For now.
For now. I will make it legal. Oh, God, that's going to be a huge moment for our podcast when we finally tackle Star Wars.
You're going to have so much fun.
That's gonna be a lot, or is it just gonna be is it gonna be just the 6 movies?
No, I'm a completionist. We will do the whole franchise, and we will have a ton of fun shitting on the sequel trilogy.
So we're gonna do the original trilogy, the Clone Wars,
the prequels. We're gonna do in release order.
Are you talking about all of the intermediate in between series as well?
We made me do a episode on Clone Wars, the animated series, but that's it. Or we could do a series shitting on the Acolyte. I'm down with that.
We'll figure out the logistics of that later.
Why am I dreading this?
Because it'll be fun. I love shitting on stuff. Halo was awesome. Okay, I love shitting on that series.
Halo was awesome. The Halo TV show.
You know what? You're right. Yes.
The reason the Halo TV show was awesome is because we were shitting on it.
Hold on. Outside of podcast real quick. Do you guys want to know something?
What?
Okay. Tower of Fantasy might be getting shut down soon.
Huh.
All right.
Okay.
Guess how many people are actively playing it at the current moment?
Not enough.
300.
200.
That was close.
It says
that
something
sucks.
when Halo Infinite has more players than you.
The Islanders try to revive him, and they only hear him proclaim it was a monster before he passes out. Tensions are high on the island now as rumors spread, and all the fish that they rely upon seem to be disappearing. An old man finally brings up, "Then Godzilla must have done it," to which many of the younger generations scoff at this. I find this to be very interesting because in the in the American version of this movie, they paint the natives of Odo as all like superstitious, like they paint them with one broad stroke.
They kind of make Godzilla in the original look like Mothra, in that the entire island at least knows about it and worships it in some way. But here it literally is just a myth, a legend.
And it also shows a lot of nuance because the old guy is like really into it and like he really thinks it might be real, while like some of his like some of the younger generation just scoff at it like this is dumb. And it shows more complexity that this isn't just some like blanket like the natives are superstitious. They're like a complex people.
No.
For that myth to have started, Godzilla must have shown up at some point before. Does that tie into your Hollow Earth theory?
It does, yes.
So let's like just pause real quick because we mentioned this the first time we watched the American version. Okay, and I mentioned this. All right, you learn in school when you go over myths and legends and things like that they all originate from a place of fact. The reason why they are so loose today is because it's literally a game of telephone. All right.
Exactly.
The original story is not what you hear today.
Exactly. The whole war for Troy and like what was it? It was the Trojan War. What was the city they thought didn't exist until they literally found it? I think it was the city of Troy. Comments could probably correct me.
Oh, okay. So there's like 2 cities. Hold on.
Well, you know what? No, we got too much time. There's not enough time. But essentially, yes, you are right. Usually a myth has some kernel of truth.
Like cryptids.
It's like cryptids. As the generational divide argues about this so-called monster, a helicopter is seen arriving on the island. Ogata, along with other officials, are seen interviewing the islanders. And like they didn't properly set this up. But, like, I'm assuming what's happening here is that they assume that, okay, all these ships are disappearing near this island. Might as well ask these people if they know anything, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but they didn't really properly set it up.
No, which is effective. Going back to just real quick with King of the Monsters, the American version, they don't give us this context. Like, the story is taking place through Steve Martin, a literal original character, an OC for the story who never existed in the first place. And it feels like there's missing context here and there.
Yeah.
Like, in this instance, I'm more interested in I find it a huge coincidence that Shinkichi's older brother is the one that they find on the island, or he washes up on his own island just to effectively say it's a monster and then die.
Oh, he's not dead yet. He's still alive.
Okay, he passes out.
Yeah.
But I still, I find that way more interesting and, world building because of the fact that it's not a Godzilla's there, everyone dies immediately. There can't be survivors. And it plays up the fact that it's like, okay, maybe they can get really lucky. And in King of the Monsters, it is just hard cut to this. Exposition, hard cut to this.
Hell, there's not even much exposition.
Steve Martin's face close up, zooming in. That's it.
But how else will you know he's distressed?
Godzilla was the true hero. Steve Martin was the actual villain.
He got in the way with journalism. Ogata, along with other officials, are seen interviewing the islanders, hoping that their close proximity to the ship sinking would help enlighten the situation. However, many islanders interviewed by Ogata, including Misagi and his brother, keep mentioning an animal, but are angry at the mainlanders' rejection of their idea. Later that night, we see the natives of Odo have gathered for a ceremonial dance. Ogata finds himself there, speaking with the old man from before, seemingly more intrigued about this so-called Godzilla. The old man goes on to explain to our protagonist that Godzilla is an old legend of a sea monster that would feed on mankind. And so in the old days, whenever fishing was poor, the Odo people would sacrifice young women to the monster to appease it. But as we've learned, many of the younger generation don't believe in Godzilla. And all that's left of these old traditions is the exorcism dance being performed before them.
I was really hoping you were going to put it because you said dance, and I was like, I really wanted to interject. Like, if you listen, it was an exorcism dance that they were doing. I really wanted to touch on that. They are trying to exorcise Godzilla, essentially.
Yeah, and it's funny because, complete side thing, this reminds me of how sometimes tech companies will literally get priests to bless their servers so that they don't break.
Wait, really?
Yeah, I've seen images of it. It's really funny.
It's a superstition, but it's hilarious.
There's a Reddit story, a quick one, of effectively this factory that had this one component to their manufacturing computer that literally required a chicken inside of it. Remove the chicken, it stops working. It's just an empty box.
You're gonna need to link that to me later because that sounds really interesting, but we don't have a lot of time for that.
Don't forgive me, listeners. I have to go full 40K for a quick second. It was pure appeasing the machine spirit in every sense of the word. Okay. I have to find it, but I'll find it.
So Ogata, after seeing all this, still looks kind of skeptical, and it's a little unclear where he goes after this, because as the night grows old, we see that the ceremony has done little to ward off the inevitable, and the weather takes a turn for the worst as the island is hit by a storm. An ill omen is carried by these winds, one of death. To date, no soul has defied the monstrous wrath of this so-called Godzilla. Even the fortunate few who've narrowly evaded its destructive path have succumbed to its lingering curse. And in a way, it seems like Misagi knows this. Even within the confines of his own home, Misagi's heart pounds with dread. Every creak and groan of the house in the storm amplifies his fear, as if some unseen force is closing in. Soon, even the foundations of his home start to weaken as debris falls and his family are roused from their sleep, hearing a booming sound in the distance. The younger brother Shinkichi leaps from his bed and heads outside to see what's happening. His family yells for him to return, and a hesitant and frightened Misagi follows after his brother. But before he could leave the house, he hears his brother yell for him, and a flash of lightning reveals something outside. Misagi's eyes widen, a flicker of recognition crossing his face. It was fleeting, but in a brief moment, a chilling realization dawned upon him. Whatever lurked outside was the same monstrous entity that claimed his ship and his crew. The man flees back into his home, frightened beyond belief, and clings to his family as the music begins to swell. The steps grow louder and louder as the house crumbles around them and something is seen crushing their home. Through the veil of rain and wind, Shinkichi saw the unnatural, something titanic and beyond belief. A monstrous entity draped in the cloak of a storm was obliterating his family and home, its presence the harbinger of doom.
Which, to me, that is the best way to do horror. And not even horror, just the fact where you're building suspense. You don't outwardly see Godzilla. You'll hear him. You see it in the characters' faces of seeing the thing that took your friends away from you. That is absolute gold, in my opinion.
And I like to preface this is that, again, the movie is old, so how effective it is different because we with our 2024 minds think it takes a lot more to do that. But like at the time, this is really effective. And something I wanted to touch upon is that Misagi is a metaphor for the hibakusha. Hibakusha, or survivor of the bomb, is a word for of Japanese origin, generally designating the people affected by the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki by the United States. In a sense, all of the survivors who encountered the monster were cursed to die regardless of their initial luck, much like the horrible after effects of an atomic bomb, which in a way is very similar to traditional Japanese ghost stories, where once you are cursed, it is inevitable your fate.
Which to me I find interesting because as you were talking about what happened to Shinkichi's brother, I got the theory of Godzilla never approached Odo Island up until Shinkichi's brother, what was his name? Misagi was the only one still alive after the attack. Because there were others that drifted onto Odo Island, but soon after died.
No, that's a mistake. That's from the original movie, because the three people we saw earlier that were survivors, the boat that found them exploded. Kind of like the same fate that happens to Misagi, that even if you survive Godzilla's initial attack, he's still coming for you.
Okay, I was about to say, it's like, kind of interesting that in here, Misagi effectively led Godzilla, because he was affected. Godzilla was a bloodhound. And trying to find Misagi's scent and then found it again.
It also
he made sure he was put to the ground.
It also has a lot to do with Japanese superstition. Like, Japanese people are like some of the most, superstitious on the planet. Even to the point where, I forget exactly what it was. It was some natural disaster they had. But it's straight up a phenomenon. You can look it up. Cab drivers would report, some ghostly being hailing them down for a cab ride. And because
I've heard of this.
Yeah, because it's, disrespectful to, be any kind of disrespectful to ghosts or spirits or whatever. They'd get out, open the door, give them a ride to, wherever they perceive them to be going. Get out, open the door, bow to them, just so that, nothing would happen to them karmic-wise.
Yeah, and so, and basically Misagi is a metaphor for the people who died even after they survived the bomb, because they were, blessed with atomic radiation.
Sounds like the basis of a cult.
Atomic radiation.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think a movie really touches on this, but I would not be surprised if a cult arose around Godzilla.
Yeah, no, I'm surprised not one has it yet.
Yeah,
it's called the Godzilla fandom.
Colonel will start it.
No, that's a religion. We're not a cult.
Most cults are deprived of a religious base.
No, you see, the difference is that a religion is accepted. Soon the islanders are drawn by the chaos, and they arrive to witness a scene of utter devastation. They find Shinkichi screaming into the wind for his lost brother, the storm, a monstrous force, raged on, its fury increasing with each passing moment. Coastal homes were obliterated and entire buildings were reduced to rubble. And we also see the original scene where the helicopter is destroyed and it still seems kind of pointless. However,
I guess it could be like a symbol of no escape.
oh,
Okay, I didn't think about that.
some time passes and we pick back up our story on the mainland as we see a bus full of frightened islanders arriving at the DIAP building. Once inside, we see an emergency meeting is taking place to hear what the islanders have to say. Quick side note, it's very interesting to see that all the meetings in this movie are completely out of order in King of the Monsters. All the meetings in this movie are completely in a different order, and they really took advantage of the fact you don't know what they're saying in
It
Japanese.
makes so much more sense in the original, like, Japanese version.
Yeah.
It's almost like the Americans were trying to hide something, guys.
Or they just think that Americans are stupid.
Probably.
Looking back at the notes I had for King of the Monsters, the main thing I kind of complained about was that there was no flow. Like in most movies, even in Rodan, Mothra, Gigantus, I guess, it had some sort of flow. Gigantus being the exception, but it wasn't jumping. It didn't feel like it was jumping from place to place. Like, oh yeah, remember this scene here where they're talking about this? Yeah, we're going to reuse it at a later point. It feels more natural that they're having these meetings because it shows the genuine unrest with the populace about what the hell's going on. Versus in the American one, in King of Monsters, it just happened and then they don't bother with it. I think that's it. They don't bother with it in the American one. Meanwhile, in the actual source material, they care that this is world building in the sense of this is how everyone else, if Godzilla were to be real, this is how people would act.
Exactly. Yeah, I love that. So the leader of the Odo Island people that is here goes on to say that 17 homes and 9 people have died from the resulting storm. Among the witnesses that take the stand, we see that Shinkichi is there, shaken from his experience, and he proclaims that he isn't a liar and what he saw was some kind of monster. At this point, the committee has heard enough of giant monsters and animals, and it's time to bring in someone who might know a thing or two about this. Enter Dr. Yamana. And it finally makes sense why he's here!
Could I interject really quick? The Shinkichi is, like, the only survivor, I think, in the whole movie of Godzilla. Like, his brother, everyone else that you guys just pointed out do die, but Shinkichi survives everything.
Oh my god, he does.
Yeah.
Holy shit, he does.
I wonder if he's a metaphor for families that are broken and devastated by the bombings.
Or he just could be the fact of where Godzilla said, here, you get a free pass. I like you, kid.
Like you cut G.
I don't think that's a free pass, though. Think of it. This kid is the sole survivor of his family and island? Roughly?
Well, no, there's still plenty of people that live on the island. It's just only 9 people died.
So this is like a soul, like he's a survivor? That's trauma-induced. I don't think he got a pass.
And Godzilla never said he got a pass at having his family back.
Yeah. They do skip this in the movie, but one thing I will point out is that Dr. Yamada does eventually adopt this kid, and he gets the last name Yamada, so that's very nice of him.
No, that's
Moving
sweet.
forward. Yeah, but I've watched the movie like 3 times. I don't see the part where that happens. I guess they just imply it. Anyway, so Yamada takes the stand and begins to speak, stating that he can't make any premature opinions at the time, but he mentions that there have been recent discoveries of potential Yeti footprints and shows that. And this goes to show that there are still plenty of mysteries on land. Is it not conceivable that such a mystery could exist in the sea? He begins to mention that the Earth has many deep pockets and abyssal regions with secrets yet unknown.
Your Hollow Earth theory.
Yeah, that's why I started thinking about it. I went back because I thought that Godzilla Reigns Again was so terrible in Japanese that I'm like, oh god, I have to go back and make sure this movie doesn't suck. Good news, it doesn't. And then I saw that whole bit and I'm like, this makes way more sense than that weird thing that he says about Godzilla's origin in King of the Monsters.
And he goes into so much detail explaining it in this version. It's so nice.
Yeah, I love it. It's so nice. But we haven't gotten to that part yet. He still hasn't seen the king. So, having heard all of the stories, Yamada pushes for a scientific survey of Odo Island to be conducted immediately. Triumphant music is heard as we fade to a ship getting ready for its important voyage, complete with streamers. I love this little tradition. They're all like, yeah!
I was gonna add on to it. Yeah, you might die like how the other boats did. Hooray!
Yeah, in this movie, it's still stupid that they get on a boat. They should totally fly there.
After they had heard twice that boats in this area went missing after large explosions.
Yep.
Totally smart.
Totally smart.
Life's not interesting unless you add a little danger.
Ah, yeah. We then see Yamada, Emiko, and Ogata are on the ship waving goodbye to everyone, and we see a mysterious man in a dark suit, eye patch, and shades look at them from afar. This is, by the way, a reference to the special effects director Eiji Tsuburaya, who would always show up to work wearing that outfit, minus the eye patch.
It's Majiba.
While out at sea, our two secretive lovebirds are alone on the deck, and Ogata mentions it's surprising to see Dr. Serizawa at the departure, stating that he rarely leaves his laboratory. It's likely that the couple knows that Serizawa is aware of their scandalous relationship. Some time passes, and the survey team, led by Yamada, makes it to Odo Island, and they see the aftermath of the storm firsthand. Somber music is heard as they investigate a nearby well and discover it's radioactive. But they are baffled that only the well on this end of the island is contaminated, seemingly ruling out radioactive fallout, which is puzzling. The mystery deepened as Yamada and his team stumbled upon an ominous depression in the ground. As they drew closer, the horrifying truth became apparent. It was an enormous, impossibly large footprint. They quickly discover that the footprint is also radioactive, and they warn the islanders to back away. Something equally baffling is discovered in the water flowing through the colossal footprint. A trilobite. And this time, he gets it right!
Thought it was a trailobite. Trawl?
It's trilobite.
Oh, okay.
This time he gets it right in calling it a three-lobed creature, which is true. He left out the part that it's an arthropod, but at least what he said is true. It's not a three-ring worm that they call it in the American version. How did you F that up?
Also, I'd like to point out when they say it's radioactive, stand back, everyone backs up like 5 feet. And
5 feet. I counted 2.
yeah, and the researchers just kind of stay there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think people realize the intensity of radioactivity at this point.
Well, I mean, radiation is a new concept to the world at this point. People don't know.
I know, but they backed up like there was just a dead bug on the ground.
Still, if this is like post bombs, then
That's true.
they would probably know.
That is true. We quickly discover that this creature is also blessed with the atomic curse and is radioactive, and Yamada is warned to not hold it with his bare hands as he puts it in a box. Their investigation is cut short as someone begins to ring a bell, warning everyone that something is approaching, and the familiar booming footsteps return.
He's back. Oh, no, wait. No, he's here for the first time. No, he's back.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wishing to see what all the fuss is about, the survey team, along with many islanders, rush up the mountain to see if they can catch a glimpse of what was causing the footsteps. As the steps grow louder and louder near the peak of the mountain until finally, a beast from a bygone era crests the hill and lets out a dreadful roar. The king of the monsters has appeared, and his name is Godzilla.
Googly eyes.
They butcher a tuba for this.
No,
Then he blew the planet up.
It's not a tuba. Every time he appears out of the water, a tuba plays, and I just go, tuba.
Yeah, but his roar is from a bass that's been heavily modified.
Also, can we mention that the real drama of the story is the illicit affair going on in the background that everybody seems to be rooting for?
You know what's funny you mentioned that, and we'll touch on it really quickly, but I guess I'll complain about it in the next episode. Even though the original is a lot better, I still don't give a crap about this love story.
I think the actress for Emiko is gorgeous.
Oh, she's beautiful, yes.
I stand in awe whenever she gets on the screen. I go, pretty.
She is very pretty. And, like, the story makes more... They put more effort into it, but I guess it's just because I like explosions. I just don't care for it.
I still find it funny that for, like, 3 whole monster movies in a row, they had romance, and as soon as they get to the one that they propaganda for women, they get rid of the romance.
It's so bizarre. So...
Because women hate romance.
This is probably where we're going to end it here, because we need to keep it under 2 hours. What do you guys think so far of the story?
I genuinely enjoy it. Like, it has captivated me in a way of where plot point A influences plot point B, which then influences plot point C. It's not A, then B, then D. Oh, we go to C real quick. And then we're back out, we're going down to F. Because that's why what I just described was King of the Monsters.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's better storytelling than the abridged version that America made. That's what the American version should be called. It should be called Godzilla Abridged.
It is pretty much that. Dom, what do you think so far?
I mean, we've already seen it already, but it's nice to have the extra context. It does make everything flow much better and actually fucking makes sense this time around.
All right, Steve.
Yeah, just it's actually a cohesive story. I love like this the story that the elder tells about them like sacrificing the girls to Godzilla to appease him, and the professor's like whole explanation about why Godzilla exists.
Yeah, makes a lot more sense, and they'll explain more of it in part 2.
Electric Boogaloo,
or I guess Electric Boogaloo.
You're so good at segues.
All right, it looks like we are running low on time. So, oh wait, that was literally me to prompt you guys to say what you thought. Never mind, screw that. Okay.
Or have stupid.
I am stupid. Leave that in. All right, troopers. That's all the time we have for today. But join us next time as we go on to part 2 of Gojira. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe to the podcast, and be ready for the next part dropping probably in January. So we are going to be taking a break because the way all of our schedules pan out, there's just no opportunity to make another episode this year.
Get to, yeah. Holidays.
Yeah. I know it doesn't mean anything saying it now, but I hope we will get this episode out before the end of the year because I refuse to miss the window of Godzilla's 70th birthday.
Bust your ass and get it done.
To our listeners, I may not be the one that heads it. The first, that's Turner over there having fun with and playing with his little Godzilla toy.
Oh yeah, there's a little figure. He's right here. I'm gonna make him stomp across the table. Blah, blah, blah.
I just want to say thank you so much for listening to us. Have a happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and talk to you effectively. See you next time.
Happy Kwanzaa.
We'll see you next year.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Thank you for listening. This is Real Jumpers signing off.